Delighted to be here today with our Creator Series with the very inspirational Elle Florence.
Oh, thank you.
Elle, we've been working together for almost 2 years, maybe close to 2 years. You do so many things that are such an inspiration to so many people. I want to share a quick story and then kind of like give you a little, learn more about you, right? And help introduce you to all of our fans, right? So I was recently sitting down with a notable venture capitalist who of her own accord said, "Do you know Elle Florence?"
Do you know she sent me an email?
Did she?
She did.
Amazing.
She is the nicest person
Yes,
ever.
she's fantastic.
Such a treat to receive that.
Oh, and so this is like, I was like, she knew you, she knew all of your videos, she knew about Nouvelle Pearl, she knew about your travels to Hawaii and many of the other trips you've taken. It was just like such a super fan. So you have fans all around the world, and that came to us, right, in just the last couple of days. So really exciting. But your story, I'd love to know, like, what inspired you to get started creating your own YouTube channel and become an influencer?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, it's getting emails like that make it all worthwhile. And I just sometimes have these moments where it seems unreal to be connected with so many amazing people, often women in particular around the world, who have similar interests and have also had a similar journey in developing their career to mine. So my YouTubing journey started in the in-betweens of my lawyer career. So I was a little bit bored waiting to start my first job training as a lawyer. I'd finished both of my degrees, and so in that in-between I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and it's just my personality to want to be part of something rather than just on the sidelines, I guess. So I decided to just get my laptop out and start filming, and that's exactly what I did, and I just tried to be consistent about it and keep going. And it was just such a neat thing to be part of, because immediately I felt like I belonged to a community of like-minded people, which was something that I hadn't experienced in real life with respect to those interests, at least in beauty and fashion. So it's definitely a powerful means of communication.
Completely. So one thing that I find really interesting about that is a journey as an attorney is very much somewhat linear, right? You have a schooling is somewhat linear. You get good grades, you get this opportunity, you do well at this firm, and it's sort of a like very step process that a lot of people feel comfort with the fact that it is somewhat prescribed. Like, if you do this, this is what will happen. And yet diving into YouTube and being an influencer and being an entrepreneur as well is like you're jumping into the unknown, right? You could do your channel and no one might watch, right? Or you start out in the first like 10 or 15 videos that you create, you're getting just a little bit of feedback, right? So how did you get through those kind of early days? I'm interested in, kind of number one, how do you go from attorney mind to super creative mind? And how did you get through those early days when you're just starting out, when maybe you were putting 10 in and getting 0 back and no feedback, and yet you still had the sort of wherewithal to continue down that journey?
What's interesting to me is they're not actually that different in terms of what they require. So both my path as an attorney and my path as a YouTuber have required an incredible amount of hustle and persistence, and a lot of the different attributes, I guess, that it takes are actually the same or similar, at least for me. That said, they are very different worlds, and I think what's neat about it to me is that it allows me to express the different sides of my personality that I wouldn't otherwise get to express, right? So in a previous life, I wanted to be a jewelry designer when I was a teenager, and going into law school, I guess I kind of felt like I was giving that up or putting it to the side, where it might be something I would occasionally get to do if I ever had any time. But I think part of my YouTube journey has been realizing that you don't need to give up your creativity in order to have a more traditional career, if that's what you want, if that's your goal. And doing both of those things kind of allows me to have an outlet for those different passions of mine.
What I find really interesting is that you've gone from not only having those interests and wanting to bring them out in the world, but doing them like with Nouvelle Pearl, right? You have created, you've designed, created a business, you sell to people all around the world love your products. I have, my stepmother has some of your pearls, which she absolutely loves, and just like completely came in a really amazing time. and she just like loves them, right? But the challenge, I think, where a lot of young entrepreneurs sometimes struggle is in that, how do I go from idea to actually like make this thing happen in the world? And how, like, you make it sound so easy right now as you're talking about that, but it's not easy, right? And a lot of people, I think, a lot of people struggle with that. Young women, young men in particular, around like, how do I take this idea? How do I like go from wanting to express myself to actually bringing that out in the world? And is there any tips you have in terms of your journey that has taken you from, you know, this is an idea that maybe has legs to, I'm going to do it, I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to see where it goes, and then reach the success that you've been able to bring about? And I know it's a journey and you're still going, but you've come a long
I think
ways.
Nouvelle Pearl is still very much at the beginning of its journey, but I think if I've learned anything through starting my own business and my own channel and brand, I guess, it's that success is like an iceberg. And I found that through my career as well. You know, it takes years of study to get that first job and just wedge your foot into the door. And it's the same thing with building a business or building a channel. So what you get to see at the end product, and I think when you have a physical product, it's the most deceiving, because then you see the website and you see the line and you think, oh my gosh, this person did this overnight. But that's not the case, right? You have years of thought, research, and process going into that final product. And for me, what worked, just in terms of making it possible, the practicality of it, is just always keeping it at the back of my mind as something that I wanted to realize as a priority, and working on it every single day. And some days that just was like 10 minutes of jotting down ideas and thinking about it. Some days that involved finally making the push to buy my domain, working on the site, talking to a photographer. All of those were baby steps that I took along the way of developing my brand. And I think if it is your full-time thing, then you'll be doing all of those in a much more condensed time period. But for me, as someone who's working full-time, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs as well, you need a way to support yourself, and so you are still working some kind of job. For me, it was a job that I didn't plan on giving up, so it meant that I had to make sure that it was sustainable. And I think having a sustainable path and plan is really important, actually, as an entrepreneur. So if you're burning the midnight oil and working a full-time job, that's not maybe sustainable for the long term. So what worked for me is keeping my business small, at least for now, so that I can make sure that I still give it attention every day while still being able to maintain everything else. But you'd be surprised, you know, how powerful that is if you get a little bit of something done every single day. It kind of snowballs. And then you end up with something amazing.
I think one of the things that has always stood out to me about you and about your channel is just your authenticity, right? And I think it comes through. People who are new to your channel, I've introduced them to your channel, and right away they can see how authentic you are, like immediately. It really comes out. Anytime, you know, you're talking about whether it's clothing or makeup or trips you're taking or moving into a new apartment or any of the things that you do, like, do you struggle being authentic on, or does it just come naturally?
So part of my journey has been the ability to maintain and juggle everything, right? So one of the ways that I manage to keep all of this going is by creating authentic content. So authenticity is really a circle for me. First of all, it's a value. So to me, that's why I watch YouTube. It's to see people's real opinions about products and clothing that they try. Fashion is a particular passion of mine, so I want to know what brands actually bring something amazing to the table for you to wear in your daily life and achieve your goals in that outfit. So I'm not interested in a sales pitch or an ad, because I want to know what people are actually loving, just as if I was talking to a friend. That's part of what I loved about YouTube, and its roots kind of when I started watching it was a lot of that content, and I just enjoyed it so much that I wanted to create that. So that's the value behind it. But there's also, like everything else that I do, there's a practical side to it, which is that I don't have time to create anything but authentic content, because I'm just allowing a glimpse into my daily life. So some of my videos are vlogs where I just show people what I do on a weekly basis, job-wise, in terms of developing my business, things I wear, things I like, things I eat, things I do, and all of that is just real life.
A lot of creators, I think, struggle in this space where brands will come to them and basically say, we will pay you to do X, Y, Z.
I have those emails every day. I really don't talk about them much, but they do come to my inbox.
Yeah, and you brought up earlier that one of the things that's very important to you is thinking about how do you make this a sustainable business and journey for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think you are an inspiration in many ways because you are thinking long term in terms of that content.
Yeah.
And I do see some creators struggle with, hey, a brand wants to pay me X dollars to do X thing, and so I'll do that because I'll get a little bit of money. And then you start to see like some of the authenticity that they have with their fans starts to go down, and fans start to distrust or at least question where they're coming from in that particular thing. And you seem to take your approach is unique. It has been sustained over time. And what I see in your comments, in fans of yours that I talk to, is that they really, really appreciate that.
It's an enormous time commitment that you're going to be making to make that content, you know that yourself. Then you need to make sure that it's sustainable and you're not going to lose anyone's respect, including your own self-respect. And I think for me, when I get those emails, and if you've never experienced one, maybe I should describe it. It'll often be someone from a brand reaching out. They're often in PR, might even be a PR agency. And they send you an email, and that's their job, so I'm not putting that down in any way. YouTube is part of a very big industry now that is very lucrative, and if that's a part of it, that's fine. It's just not necessarily something that I want to feed into, because a lot of the time the content of the email is a script. So they're offering you money in exchange for an ad. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've had advertisement on TV for decades. Nobody expects it to go away overnight. But I think part of the benefit of YouTube and what makes it special is the authenticity of giving your own opinion. So if a brand partners with you and it's already a brand that you love and they're willing to work with you to create a video, there's nothing wrong with that per se, because you're creating content and enabling yourself to grow. That said, either way, no matter where the money comes from, I think it's really important not to give up your independence, because you worked so hard to create that. For years, usually you'll work on your channel to be able to get to a place where brands are contacting you. And so it blows my mind when people are so willing to give up that independence and authenticity overnight in exchange for a quick buck. If I wouldn't tell a friend that message, if it would come across as fake or inauthentic or just not ring quite right, telling a girlfriend about that product or thing, then I would never put it on my channel. Right?
Yeah. That's a good, easy sort of true north test to always have.
And that's not to say you should in any way exclude yourself from opportunities. If a brand comes to you and they say, I have this great new product, you want to try it? Here's a sample. I don't think there's anything wrong with accepting that.
But the thesis that we have is that in the long run now, I think brands actually matter a lot less. I think it's people that matter, and people make decisions based on other people. And so brands...
That's well documented and, merchandising.
Completely. And brands are always trying to figure that out, but it's actually easy. Create great product, number one, that has authentic, real story. The days of a brand sort of creating poor product under poor conditions and then having a marketing message, that gets spilled out in the open immediately now. So create great product, have great story around it, and then let true fans of your product tell a story for you. If you're a brand, I think a lot of startup brands are able to do that, and I think with Nouvelle Pearl and some of the other things you're working on, I think that's naturally going to come apart. So
I think if you're doing it right, it should be easy. Not as in not hard work. It's very hard work, but it should be easy. You shouldn't be trying to slip things in or craft this sort of complicated video where you're inserting.
Any stories you can share about MagicLinks? Is there anything that how has it impacted you or been helpful?
Yeah.
You know, to your growth of either your channel, things you could do, couldn't do without it. Would love to just know how MagicLinks has helped you, if at all.
Yeah.
And hopefully it has. Since
Yeah,
it's been a couple years.
you know it has. We've had many phone conversations where I tell him how great it is. And the reason is that starting out, I wasn't super organized when I would hold up the camera to the mirror before heading out to the office and show my outfit about sharing where particular things were from or where to get them. And I started getting more and more requests for that because it can be a real minefield to dress for work. I think you want to put your best foot forward. And so I was getting a lot more requests for that as my channel was growing, thanks to that content. So MagicLinks really fed into that because suddenly I was able to organize all of the content that I was creating in the video, in the info bar of the YouTube video, if you're familiar with that, so that people could actually go and find the thing that I was sharing.
Well, Elle, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Love visiting with you as always. And
pleasure.
It's amazing to do it in person. Finally, after you know, you learn in the online space, all of a sudden you're emailing, you're on phone calls, you're like Skyping, do all of these things.
But there's nothing like meeting in person.
Nothing like meeting in person. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for watching.
And thank you, everyone.
Bye.